Okay, we are back here, and we have two speakers in this next session from YouTube. Christoph Oehler leads engineering for YouTube channel memberships and YouTube giving. Previously, he held engineering projects with Google's Geo effort for Google Maps and Google Earth. After completing his master's degree in computer science and receiving the Didactics certificate from ETH Zurich, Switzerland, Christoph co-founded a software engineering company and then joined Endoxen to lead software engineering projects. And Ramona Bobohalma leads engineering for YouTube movies and shows, YouTube shopping discovery, and live commerce. She joined YouTube in 2008, working over the years on external developer API, multi-device experience, movies and shows, and shopping. Ramona is passionate about how technology can positively impact day-to-day life and is excited to help build it. Outside of work, she loves to spend time in nature, snowboarding, running, and is continually learning to embrace change through mindfulness practices. For a session on operating as a startup within a large organization, please welcome from YouTube, Christoph Oehler and Ramona Bobohalma to the Impact stage.
Right. Hey, everyone. Ramona and I are really happy to be with you here today. As Trevor said, we're both working at YouTube. We've decided to a joint talk to give you two different examples of how to kick off and operate a startup within a large company. Two people, two different stories. As Trevor said at the beginning, right after my master's, I founded a company with a friend of mine. And so this is where I got to kind of experience the first what it is to do a startup. I learned a ton of new things, and I still very much benefit from them today. Now I work at YouTube, and well, I don't think we can really say YouTube is a startup anymore. However, I really heavily enjoy being able to work in an environment that fosters innovation. The way YouTube, or I think we can say even like how Google does it, is that product teams have a lot of freedom to own and drive their own products. That, of course, really inspires the team, so they feel they're in the driver's seat. They can influence where stuff is going, which is very, very energizing. It's, of course, that it's not possible to operate in isolation. You need to make sure that you tie into the company's values, and you need to reflect what the company really cares about. The closer your success metrics are aligned with the company's beliefs, values, goals, the better. Alignment is really bad for everyone. It's bad for the team, really folks working really, really hard, get the features out, and then their work not being appreciated. That is really, really bad for the team morale. It also is obviously bad for the career for the individual folks. In a startup, it's kind of similar, right? But there you have different stakeholders. There's more customers, partners, and potentially investors. So back in 2016, one of the teams I was managing was in the process of wrapping up a working stream. So the big question started, well, what do we do next? Are we going to do more of the same? Should we keep increasing, improving the features, add more kind of things to it? What should it be? Or maybe should we do something new? Well, and in case it is something new, well, what would it be? So that really started to kind of make us think, what are the USPs of our teams? What does the team really do well? Where do we excel? What are the things that maybe we do better than other folks? And so we came to the conclusion that the thing that the team really, really knows well is how to promote in the name of the creator, their videos, their channel, basically help them promote their own business on the platform. So the team has a lot of expertise in building viewer features as well as creator features across all of the different platforms. It happened that at that time, events around brand safetyness caused a lot of discussions around alternative monetization efforts. So ideas were tossed around merch. Why can't we allow creators to sell their merchandise articles on the platforms? What about allowing artists to sell their tickets? How about like fan funding? And what resonated with us was, well, that sounds to be like a great match. Being able to promote your merchandise articles, you really need to have a way to promote these things to the viewer. So I think really tapped exactly into what the team was doing well. And luckily, that obviously also aligned with the company's key priorities, the creators. Creators are the lifeblood of the platform. Without creators, no videos. Well, I was then the next big thing, well, does it even make sense to get into this business? So we started with market research. How big is the market? How does it really work? What are creators already doing? And with that, the next question, well, we have 3 areas that we get started. Which of them should we invest first? Because we can spend a lot of time in one of them, but which one is really the best? Well, we had no clue. So we started to interview creators, figuring out what do they like the best. Does any of them resonate with them? Turned out they liked all ideas. Started looking at interviewing viewers, doing research, see what they like. The problem with the viewer research, obviously, is it only tells you half of the story. They tell you they would transact, but what they're going to do this in practice, that they really are going to take their credit card out, is a whole different story. So we're still kind of puzzled. So what do we do next? And we say, well, the best thing would be to run a proof of concept, an experiment as quickly as possible. Let's measure. Let's see how these things work. I'm not going to dive in on merch, just to kind of make it simpler, but the stories for the other items are pretty similar. So if you think about allowing a creator to sell their merchandising articles on the platform, there's a lot of flaws you have to consider. Merch partners need to have a UI where the creator can specify which articles, which merch items they want to sell on the platform. Then you need to find a way to link the accounts between the merchant's account and the YouTube account. Then somehow we need to know about which items they are, so kind of exchanging the available stock. Then, giving interfaces for the creators on the YouTube side, doing the actual UI to serve the merch items on the videos. And then last but not least, have all the interaction logging in place so they really know what's going on. That's a whole lot of things to do, and there's no way to run very quickly an experiment. So we thought, well, what is really the key piece we want to figure out? The key piece was, would viewers transact? Would they buy these things? So this kind of made it clear that we should focus on the viewer experience. Let's really kind of dive into this. The first simple idea was, well, let's just creators give us their items along with the description, maybe a link to a third party where these things could be bought. Now, it allows us to quickly see like how many impressions we get of these items, how many clicks we get. That's nice, but the key thing we wanted to figure out, how many transactions would happen, would not have been possible with this setup. So that means we had to go a bit broader. And so we needed a partner on the merch side to really kind of try this out. Similar stories could be told to the other working streams. But we started to get these experiments up. We saw the transactions, and it actually turned out it works really well. All 3 streams produced the money. All three streams gave the creators what they wanted. So we wanted to dive in a bit more, getting understanding a bit more, scaling this up a bit. But at some point, we saw all streams work. But now, in order to scale it up, really the manual process, the things we had in place, just doesn't work anymore. So at that point, we're kind of ready to make a call on which product to focus on. And basically go back to our XX to do another round of funding the product and getting it to next. Today, we're really happy that all 3 working streams are fully fledged products on the platform, and they're really an integral part of the whole monetization effort on YouTube that allows creators in their driver's seat to have their own business on the platform. And it's always great also to hear, when our CEO Susan kind of talks about these things. Yeah, that was just kind of one example of taking it from a idea to how to go about it, how to get the buy-in kind of from the execs, and then figuring out how to go about this. Now handing it over to Ramona.
Christoph, and we definitely hear from creators as well, kind of how grateful they are to have these capabilities. So it's really amazing what's been done. So hello everyone, my name is Ramona, and I'm very excited to be here, and I'm kind of hoping in the next years we get to do these things in person. And I've been at YouTube since 2008, and through the years I've had the privilege of starting a few projects, including the multi-device experience, which was controlling YouTube on your big screen TV from your mobile phone, as well as kind of new ventures now in shopping, and the project that I'm going to talk about, which is related to movies and shows. Now, full disclaimer, I've never been part of a startup. And I imagine kind of running as a startup within a large company, and the real experience may be quite different. With movies and shows, the mission is to connect viewers and content from all over the world. And we had a fairly mature and successful business in the transactional video on demand. So this is where viewers are paying for either renting or kind of purchasing a movie or a show. And now the question was, could we actually make it financially viable to offer these things for free, with ads, of course, or part of your premium subscription. Kind of, I'll walk you through kind of the different stages. I would say kind of in the pitch stage, I feel very lucky to actually, work kind of directly with the business development team from the get-go, with the strategy team, and have access to the market research that kind of tells you, all right, when's the right time and kind of what you should be focusing on. I think here it's important to just have your hypotheses clear, like what will you be testing and kind of when and how will you validate them. And then in the build stage, kind of build and validate stage, I would say here kind of speed and simplicity and flexibility is super important. And just for any product, right after the pitch, like we do want to somehow kind of get it in front of viewers or whoever the customers are in this case, to understand that does it actually work. And I mean, the fastest I've ever seen it kind of done is somewhere within 3 months. And in our case, we wanted to reuse a lot of the technology we already had in place, but a lot of our stack was assuming that these things would be paid and not free. And so we needed to generalize it, but not make everything free. So that was an interesting challenge along the way. So in terms of kind of the talent that was needed, we needed fairly senior folks from the team that basically had a good understanding of the full stack and kind of how to piece like the different, what are the components that are needed, and then how to piece them together in a new way and kind of just make these surgical interventions so that we can launch the product in a new form. And the technical problems that we had to solve were across kind of the ingestion, getting this content from partners, and publishing it at the right time and kind of with different windows of availability, as well as kind of storing it and serving it from the YouTube infrastructure, as well as performance, kind of understanding which titles work, which titles don't work, and how discoverable they are, and if there's things that prevent them from being discoverable. And as a fun fact, like in those first months, kind of as we got it to a build, And actually, quite a few months afterward, like I think it was 6 or 9 months afterwards, the whole thing was running on top of a master spreadsheet, which, you know, with kind of engineers and the operations team working very closely together. And, you know, to these days, I'm quite amazed that it worked as well as it did overall. And yeah, now we got the product, kind of it's out there. I think, you know, the enthusiasm goes very high, and this is the part where you learn and iterate. And I think, like, for most things, kind of disillusionment is part of the packet. This is the stage where you need to be kind of brutally honest around kind of what is working and what isn't working. Because, like, you know, funny or not, actually viewers were not expecting to see full-length free movies available. So we had a perception problem. Like, people were not clicking on it because they didn't think they were official. We also had to kind of solve things around ads and kind of, you know, kind of how do we have the insertion points, where do we put the ads, and also kind of have ad podding, and also terms of performance, right? Kind of which titles actually work, and also basically how soon could we refresh them, and when does it make sense. And what I've seen, like, some of the things, like, people sometimes don't face the fact, right? There's a lot of sometimes they're spinning and that only works so far, or kind of people abandon things too early. And I think this is the important thing, where kind of as leads and also kind of as an engineering team, you need to have both. And Brené Brown puts it very nicely. You need to have gritty faith and kind of face the gritty facts, right? You absolutely must believe that you can make this product successful, but you also have to clearly look at where your metrics are and where you want them to be, and kind of embrace the frustration, embrace the impatience, kind of wanting it to be somewhere else, but keep kind of learning and iterating, right? And after, like, if you're able to kind of see that gap and kind of see it as a challenge, and enjoy the challenge, and kind of take it one step at a time, and also focus on the process rather than the immediate outcome, I think that basically gets you to a product that has a good market fit. And then we get to kind of the I don't know if it's the third or the fourth stage, kind of where you've got your product market fit and you need to kind of scale it. And I think at this point, it's kind of an, I don't know, Google's engineer kind of dream job, where you have you have something that you know you're going to work. Maybe you have it at a smaller scale, and now you need to kind of deliver it at a larger scale. I would say, in terms of talent at this point, the same people that kind of got you to a launch may not be, unless they're willing to kind of change their thinking, they may not be the same people that kind of are able to scale it overall, just because they got used to kind of a certain pace, and they do need to flex like different muscles in order to kind of have that long-term thinking and balance. And hopefully, I mean, some folks grow into it, but sometimes you need to identify whether you need to kind of bring in new folks that are able to kind of take on the new challenge as well. And with that, basically, another thing at this stage, it's like you're not just doing scaling. I think it's a portfolio of work you're doing, kind of. There's the scaling work, of course, but you're also kind of developing new features. And actually, this is the best time to start generating new ideas and kind of thinking through, like, what would be the next thing, right? Because, like, again, it's going to take trial and error. So it's nice to have some things that are kind of fully blooming, and then kind of starting to plant some new seeds along the way as well. So yeah, that was, oh yeah. And in terms of the free movies, unfortunately, they're only in US for now. So, but we're looking to kind of scale it globally and kind of bring them to more countries. And movies, you know, we get great comments from the viewers, right? Kind of whoever made this available for free on YouTube. It's an actual legend. I always like to be called the legend. And then the subscriber base, basically the movies and shows channel, it's one singular channel, and it grew from somewhere where it was like at 80 million, I think, when we started. So 80 million subscribers to 141 these days, which is quite nice to see the engagement there. All right, so that was it. That was the second story. And I don't know if Trevor's back for, all right,
right
here he is.
I'm right here.
All
Yeah,
right.
so I'm in Pennsylvania, so I can do the YouTube movies, right?
Okay, what's your favorite movie from there?
Well, my favorite movie, I don't watch movies, so I'm not a good person to ask. But
right. What do you watch?
I read books.
All right.
Yeah, but I do have some questions for you, though. I do have some questions for you, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so being, being entrepreneurs beforehand and then moving to such a large organization. I mean, I'm 31 years old, so YouTube's been around for a long time for me. I consider it like a global corporation. Like, I think the days of startups are long gone. Like, considering Google a startup is long gone. But what was the most difficult aspect of, kind of living that entrepreneurial life to then being in a global corporation like YouTube?
I think there are several aspects where it feels like a big company, right? I think all of the like HR, kind of these related items, I think this is kind of where stuff is very streamlined, not just in YouTube, but like basically in Google itself. The actual kind of product development, the actual engineering aspect, this I was very positively surprised to actually still see that. And I think it's because the company has taken an explicit decision, right, to foster innovation, to really allow people to be in the driver's seat, right? So it's not that it's dictated from the top, but a lot of stuff actually comes up from the ground up. And just giving people the chance to innovate, to drive stuff, to launch the items, to really get it out, I think that makes a huge difference, because people are incentivized to come up with ideas. They are incentivized to think about, to really identify with the product that they're building, and I think that makes a huge difference. Yeah, I have to say I was really surprised at the beginning that this actually is possible. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's really refreshing to hear, because I think a lot of entrepreneurs, are really scared to go back to work for a corporation, especially, if you've done it in your past and maybe have some not great experiences being an entry-level worker. So that is refreshing to hear. And Ramona, do you have an answer, or should I ask or would you like a different question?
I started out of university into YouTube, so I've never really had the outside the experience.
But you're doing it within YouTube, I guess, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
So I would say, so what is the most exciting thing that like YouTube startups are doing in your domain, besides, what you've talked about now? What do you hope to be able to accomplish in the next few years in your role?
These days we're working kind of in the shopping space. I think what's exciting for me, it's kind of just kind of enabling kind of creators and viewers to kind of connect in new ways, and in a way kind of bringing joy back to shopping. Like, to some degree these days shopping has become very I know, and I do it a lot, right, online, and it's super effective, and it's super to the point. I get the stuff that I need. But if I look back, right, it was a lot about kind of a social engagement, right, where you would spend time with your friends and kind of you would connect with somebody, or kind of you had the kind of that marketplace experience, right, where you went and kind of knew the seller, and you knew that they would give you the good deals, and they kind of knew you, and they had a really nice conversation with you going on. So not only did you get your products that you needed, but you also had kind of a meaningful human connection. And I think I'm kind of excited about bringing that into the online space, and kind of figuring out how that works in the online world.
So basically, I mean, what I just want to make sure I heard that right, is like you I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you have a passion for shopping. It's obvious to tell, because you have a passion for it, and that's something you work on within YouTube, kind of as a startup. So would you say that it's really important that, like, within the startup domain inside corporations, that you kind of match it with a passion or problem that you'd want to solve?
I think absolutely. Like, I know you have to figure out. I think you need to kind of align yourself in general with things that are bigger than yourself, right? You have to figure out the thing in you that kind of resonates with kind of what's going on in the world as well, and kind of co-create things. Like that works always kind of better.
Well, thank you for that. Christoph, back to you. I got a question for you. So when it's startups within a large organization, do you find it more often that the kind of problems are sent from higher up, or is there a big initiative within kind of people at the organization to then kind of go up the food chain to ask for direction within this?
I think we're seeing both things that are happening. I think on one hand, you have obviously, execs feeling like a new thing they would like to get into and kind of planting the seed to sometimes, almost like demanding, right, that some of the efforts are happening. So I think that's the case. But then we have this explicit thing we call 20% projects, where allow people just to experiment, right, and come up with a prototype. And being able to show a prototype to someone who is on the power, right, then to kind of staff a team is such a different experience, rather than having a dull presentation, right, where we have some screenshots. And that, I think there are a lot of these different projects that are on the platform right now really came through these things. And so they were completely spun up, by ideas of really engaged engineers coming up with these ideas. I think we really see both. And in the case I was talking about, it's like a in-between story, right, where there was some first talks, on the XX, like that's maybe a thing we should get into. And in that case, we just kind of pick this up. So I think it's a whole variety, like, of different ways of approaching that. I think it's just all about being open to new opportunities, being able to embrace them, being not afraid to step out of your comfort zone to try something new. Stuff could fail.
Yeah, no, it's interesting, because I think a lot of times, when you work for a corporation as well, you kind of want to stay in your lane at sometimes, because it can be very overwhelming. But what I'm hearing is that at YouTube, I guess greater Google or Alphabet, is that there really is an emphasis on letting employees kind of come up with this, or it's kind of encouraged, I suppose.
I think it explicitly is, right? And but it's still, of course, right, it takes courage to step out, to try something. And yes, it can very well be that you try something and it fails, right? That's there. I think not being afraid of this to happen, right, and embracing a chance, right, and really diving into things you're passionate about. I think that's really the key aspect. I think, as also like Ramona pointed out, of course, like, it doesn't mean blindly, right, running into things. You have prepared. You need to know what you're looking for. You need to know what you're measuring, so that you have kind of your expectations right. But stepping out, and hey, if it fails, it fails, right? It's not the end of the world. And I think also that's how execs see it, right? So the goal is to learn as quickly as possible and to fail fast, right? If it turns out it doesn't work.
Yeah. Well, Christoph, Ramona, thank you so much for joining us here today at Techsylvania. Unfortunately, our time has come to an end, but I really appreciate your time. And hopefully next year we can see you in Cluj, right?
Yay!
That's good.
Yeah, so hopefully we can all be in person next year together. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. Have a good day, everyone.
Ciao.